I learned about Nathan on the way here is that he tends to exaggerate tremendously, so don't believe everything that you hear. Thank you for having me, Shavua Tov. It's really an honor and a privilege to be here, and I'm going to do the best that I can to keep everybody awake at this hour of the night so that we can have an engaged conversation. If I asked you which one of your five senses, sight, taste, sound, touch, or smell, is the most important, I would venture to guess that the overwhelming majority of you would say sight. And I would probably agree. I don't know that I can imagine Chas v'Shalom life without the ability to see the colors and the magnificent things and the beauty around me. The Torah has a very different perspective. The Torah seems to highlight the concept of sound, of listening. In fact, there are very interesting ideas about sound. Statistics have shown that 85% of what we know we learn through listening. We communicate with people 7 out of every 10 minutes of the day in some way, shape, or form. 85% of what we know we learn through listening. Funny thing is that human beings listen at a 25% comprehension rate, which means by the time this hour is over, it's only going to feel like 15 minutes. Because you're only going to hear every fourth word that I say. The most interesting thing is, science has shown that we speak at a rate of 125 to 175 words a minute. We listen at a rate of 175 to 250 words a minute, but we think at a rate of 1,000 to 3,000 words per minute. Which means that even if I spoke as quickly as humanly possible, I cannot engage you entirely in thought. By definition, you will have to be distracted, because you think so much faster than I can possibly give you over information. And so for a big part of the day, you are tremendously distracted. And that's where our starting point is tonight. This dichotomy, this pulling of tensions between your distraction and your undivided attention. So I'm going to start with a concept in biblical grammar. It's called milat manha. Anybody know what milat manha is? Charlotte knows what milat manha is. Okay, Charlotte, you want to tell us what milat manha is?
The mean word of this action.
Okay, good. So milat manha is a thematic word. The Torah cannot highlight, it cannot underline, it can't italicize, it can't bold words. If it wants to draw your attention to a specific word or idea, it repeats that word or idea over and over and over again, usually several times in a short span of pisukim. And it's screaming out at you saying, pay attention, because this is the main theme of the passage. This is what should grab your attention. I'm going to give you an example, and then we'll continue with our discussion. And listen for the milat manha. It comes at the beginning of Sefer Shemot. Moshe Rabbeinu has been brought into the home of Paro, and he's raised by Bat Paro. Finally, he reaches the point where he's grown up, and he wants to go out into society. And the pasuk says, "Vayhi bayamim hahem vayigdal Moshe vayatze el Echav vayad b'sivlotam." Moshe grows up, and he goes out, and he sees his brothers being oppressed. Vayad ish mitzri makeh ish ivri me'echav, and he sees an Egyptian man beating a Jewish man from his fellow tribes. Vayifen kova vayad ki en ish, and he turns and he looks to see if there's anybody watching. Vayachet hamitzri vayitmeneu bechol, and he sees that nobody's watching, so he beats the Egyptian and he kills him and he buries him. Vayetze bayom hasheni ve'ineh shnei anashim ivrim nitzim, and he goes out on the second day. He sees two men fighting. Vayomer larasha lama taker echa, and he says to the one who is striking his friend, "Why are you beating up a fellow Jew?" Vayomer, and the man responded, "Mi samcha li ish sar v'shofet alenu." Are you my mother, who appointed you to tell me? Halahorgeni ata omer kasher harakta tamitzri vayira Moshe vayomar achen odah davar. Moshe sees that the thing is known that he killed the Mitzri, and he's going to run away. What's the milat manha in the context of Moshe? It was 3 Pisukim that I read you. This word is repeated 5 times. So more so than Pisukim is the word, I heard it somewhere over here, Ish. Correct. The Torah is drawing on the word Ish, a man. In a world where there are no men, in a world where people have become numb to injustice, people are seeing others being brutally beaten and oppressed and enslaved every single day, and nobody's doing anything about it. Finally, a man comes out of the woodwork, and he's a man. And he's thinking and feeling and watching and paying attention, and he says, injustice will not happen on my watch. He's the Ish that we have been waiting for decades to finally lead us out of Mitzrayim. Milat manha, Ish. That's how it works. With that in mind, I take you back to Parashat Va'et Hanan. Moshe repeats to a generation that was not there at the time the episode of Har Sinai. And he recants what happened. They stood at the mountain, and Borei Olam revealed himself, and they got the Luchot, and they saw the fire, and they heard the sounds, and they had this revelation, and he repeats to them the story of Matan Torah. And more than 24 times, in a short span, Moshe repeats 2 words. I'm not going to read the whole thing, we don't have that kind of time. I'm going to read you 2 Pisukim, and you'll tell me what 2 words are the main words in those Pisukim. He says in Perek Dalet in Sefer Devarim Pasuk Lamed Gimel, Hashama am kol Elohim medaber mitoch ha'esh kasher shamata ata vayechi. Has any other nation heard the voice of their God speak to them from amidst the fire and heard it like you heard it and lived? He's telling the Jewish people. And later on in Pasuk Lamed Vav, Min Hashamayim Hashmiacha et kolo liyasereka. From Shamayim, Hashem made His voice heard. Ve'ala aretz heracha et isho hagedolah. And on land you saw Him from the fire. Udvarav shamata mitoch ha'esh. And you heard His words from within the fire. What is the milat manha? Or 2 milim here? Shama and kol. Shama, to listen, and kol, voice, are repeated some 24 times in a short span of time. And the question is, what's the message? Clearly the Torah is highlighting these words, it's trying to tell me something. What is the Torah trying to tell me by repeating and highlighting the words Shama and kol? And I think the answer lies in the Hakdama of the Rambam to Perush HaMishnayot, the Rambam's introduction to Mishnah. He talks about the concept of Navi Sheker, of a false prophet. And he says, should a man present himself to you and tell you that God came to me and gave me a revelation that from now on Shabbat is on Tuesday. We're done with the Saturday thing. Shabbat is now on Tuesday. And I'm going to prove it to you by turning the sky green with red stripes and orange polka dots. And indeed, he changes the sky green with red dots and orange polka dots. Orange stripes. Whatever it was. And that's what he does. The Rambam says, don't believe him. He's lying. Guy turned the sky green with red stripes and orange polka dots. I don't know too many other people that could do that, and you're going to tell me he's lying? God didn't choose this man to tell me that we changed Shabbat from Saturday to Tuesday? Says the Rambam, do not be led astray by what your eyes see. It's a facade. Lo taturu acharei lebavchem. Do not follow what your eyes see, because that's not what you heard on Har Sinai. What did you hear on Har Sinai? Borei Olam said, Yom Shiviri, Shabbat is on Saturday, the 7th day of the week. That's what you heard. But now I have a tension between something that I'm seeing, green sky, red polka dots, and something that you told me. The Rambam makes a very eloquent point. And the point is, Judaism is a religion of sound. It's not a religion of sight. What you heard, that's what you follow, not what you see. Sight is a very interesting sense. It exists outside of me. It's a completely disjointed sense from my being. It's out there. So I walked into this beautiful knis tonight, and I'm not really paying attention to all of the things that are going on, and I'll go home, and if I close my eyes, I could probably see the sanctuary in the back of my mind, even though I didn't really pay attention to it. Because my eyes took it in without really giving it any thought. That is not the case by sound. Sound requires investment. I could hear you. It doesn't mean I'm listening. I can hear the words that you're saying, but if I'm not invested, if I'm not giving you my undivided attention, remember, I think at a rate of 1,000 to 3,000 words a minute. So my mind is wandering, thinking about a million other things at the same time that you're talking to me, which may very well be happening right now. But in order for you to hear me and really be invested in what I'm saying, I need your undivided attention. And the Torah says Judaism is a religion of sound. And that's why we repeated over 24 times in a short span of time in the story that recounts the giving of the Torah, the words Shama and Kol. Because Borei Olam says, I don't care what you see. I care what you hear. I need you to listen. Because I have a lot to say. I need your undivided attention for you to be listening, not hearing, listening to what it is that the Torah has to tell you. Because Judaism is a religion of sound. And the Torah illustrates that in a lot of different cases. There's an interesting pasuk that most people gloss over in the Yosef story. Brothers go down to Mitzrayim. They met with Yosef. Unbeknownst to them, it's their long-lost brother. And he convicts them. He puts them on charges of being spies. They take leave of him. They're going home. And on the way back, they have a conversation. And they say amongst themselves, Vayomeru ish el achiv. Aval Ashemim anachnu al achinu. Ashemim anachnu al achinu. They don't even know that it's Yosef. They say amongst themselves, we're guilty for what we did with our brother, and that's why this is all happening. Listen to the pasuk. Asher ra'inu tzarat nafsho behitchaneno elenu velo shamanu. We saw him in pain, but we weren't listening. We saw that he was distressed. We saw that there was a problem. We saw that there was difficulty. But we weren't paying attention. We weren't listening to our younger brother who was calling out to us in some way, shape, or form that he needed help, that he needed attention, that he needed love. We didn't hear it. And that's why all of this is happening. The Torah says, forget what you saw. What are you hearing? What is the sound that is happening around you? The same thing repeats itself with Yaakov and Esav. Yaakov now has the berachot. Esav is upset, and his parents tell him that he has to leave to go find a wife. And the Pesukim say, Vayikra Yitzhak el Yaakov, Vayivarech oto, Vayitzavehu, Vayomer lo, Lo tikach isha mi benot Kena'an. Yitzhak calls Yaakov and he says, you need to go and don't take a woman for a wife from benot Kena'an. Kum lech Padan Aram beta Betuel. You need to go to Padan Aram, to the house of Betuel. Avi imecha, your uncle. V'kach lecha misham b'minot Lavan achi imecha, and take a wife from that family. What is the result of that conversation? Vayishma Yaakov el aviv ve'el imo vayelach Padan Aram. Yaakov listened. He heard what his parents told him. And he went to find a wife from Padan Aram. What did Esav do? If I read the next pasuk, I note the juxtaposition of the two words. Vayar Esav kira'ot benot Kena'an be'enei Yitzchak aviv. Esav saw that the daughters of Canaan were evil in his father's eyes, but nonetheless he didn't follow instructions because he wasn't listening. He heard his father. He saw, he was there, he was part of the conversation, but he wasn't listening. Yaakov was listening. Vayishma Yaakov, he took it in. He was invested in the conversation. He was taking part in the conversation. There's a famous quote that says, the biggest problem with communication today is that we don't listen to understand. We listen to reply. Everybody loves to hear themselves talk. Can't say I'm not one of those people. Well, we're not listening. We're not listening to the people around us. And that's a tremendous deficit. Because I can only learn so much from hearing myself repeat the same things over and over and over again. But we need to start listening to the people around us. And that's what Borei Olam wants. I don't know how many parents are in the room. I have 4 kids, 10, 8, 5, and 1.5. If you asked me what my one wish would be for my kids, at this point in time, it would be, I wish that they would just listen to what I have to say. Because no matter what I say, they're doing the complete opposite. If only I could shake them and tell them, the stuff I have to say really does make sense if you would just give me a shot. You'd probably see that all of us would be a lot happier if you would just listen to what I have to tell you. And I always compare the relationship of God to the Jewish people to that of a parent and child. I just need you to listen. Because guess what? I have a lot of great things to say. And you and I can be in a very different place, a much better place, if we would just start hearing each other and listening to what we have to say. Interestingly enough, there really exists no word in Judaism for to observe. How do I say to observe in Judaism?
Lishmor?
Okay, so lishmor is always the popular answer that I get, and you're right, but it has a completely different context. The pasuk says, you all know it very well because you say it every day. V'haya im shamoa tishmeru el mitzvotai asher anochi mitzaveh etchem hayom. Listen, to observe. What does it mean by im shamoa tishmeru? If you do what I tell you to do. But it doesn't say if you do what I tell you to do. It says if you listen to what it is that I'm telling you, then everything will work. The word is lishmoa, the word is to listen. I need you to be invested. If only you would stop and listen to the things that I have to tell you, to observe them, then things would work in your favor. I need you to pay attention. Who was paying attention to the parasha this morning? There's a phrase this morning that appears in the Torah that does not appear anywhere else in the entire Tanakh. It's what we call a hapax legamenon. That's a very fancy word. And I always sound smart when I say it. Milah she'en la re'ah, a word that has no other word like it in the Torah. Does anybody know what that phrase is? Sorry? No. But thank you for taking a stab at it. We don't, I heard something, I heard what you said. We don't actually read it that way. We read it a different way because it's a kriyu k'tiv, the word that you mentioned, which is a different discussion. The pasuk says, in Perek Kaftet, that we read this morning, Vaydaber Moshe ve'akohanim halevi'im el kol Yisrael lemor. Moshe tells the Jewish people, before this is his farewell address, Sefer Devarim is his farewell address. Hasket ushma Yisrael. The word hasket does not appear anywhere else in the Torah. Hasket ushma. What is he saying? He's talking to the children of the people that he led for 40 years. And his message is very clear. You know what the problem was in the last generation? Nobody listened. Nobody wanted to hear what we had to say. We told them God is going to take us into Eretz Yisrael and we're going to conquer the land. And what did they say? I don't believe it, I want to send in spies. We told you Borei Olam is going to provide man from Shamayim so you can have sustenance. What did they say? I want meat. Borei Olam said, don't worry about what's happening around you, I'm going to take care of it. And they said, I don't believe it, I want proof. Moshe tells the Jewish people in this week's parasha, Hasket ushma, stop. Stop. Listen. Listen to what he's telling you. If you would just invest in the information, things would move in the direction that you want them to move in. And then this week's parasha moves into discussing the berachot and the klalot. The berachot for those who observe, and the klalot for those who don't observe. And how does the parasha open the section of the people who observe the Torah? V'haya im shamoa tishma b'kol Adonai Elohecha. If you listen to the voice of Borei Olam, or v'haya im lo tishma l'kol Hashem Elohecha, or if you don't listen to the words of Borei Olam. Because Judaism is a religion of sound. But it's more important, and it runs much deeper than just Judaism being a religion of sound. Because at the end of the day, we all want the same thing. How many people here don't want people to listen to them when they're talking? Raise your hand. Nobody? You want your friends to listen to you when you're talking to them? You want your kids to listen to you when you're talking to them? You want your spouse to listen to you when you're talking to him or her? We want people to listen. But we live in an age where listening is becoming extinct because there's no human contact anymore. How many people, and you don't have to raise your hand, how many people are planning on, when the time comes to have to ask forgiveness for the people that you wronged, sending the all-being text of, hey, just wanted to say sorry for so-and-so, hope we could get past it, tizkulu shanim rabot. Doesn't cut it. Doesn't cut it. That's not a Torah concept. Torah concept is human contact, human communication. Go over to the person, human being to human being, look them in the eyes, difficult as it may be, and say, I have something I want to tell you, and I really want you to listen. I want to say I'm sorry for X, Y, Z, A, B, C, and have a conversation. The fact that you actually did that, that's why the Torah asks you to do it. More so than the actual words that you're going to say is the fact that you're going to actually have human contact. You're going to look at another person in the face and say, I want to talk to you and I want you to listen. That's what we all want. We're entering a time where listening is put on a pedestal. How do I know? You know how I know? Because sound is divine. Before we blow the shofar, we're going to say very distinct words. It says it right there. Adonai bekol shofar. God is in the sound of the shofar. Make no mistake about it, ladies and gentlemen. When you blow that shofar, God is in the room. Because God is in sound. Sound is divine. Adonai bekol shofar. God is in the voice. God is in sound. And it says it in the Torah at the very beginning of time. Adam and Hava sinned. What did they not do? They didn't listen. And Borei Olam comes to take them to task. And Adam is hiding. And the Pasuk says, as he's hiding, Vayishme'u et kol Adonai Elohim mitalech bagan leruach hayom. They heard the sound of God walking through the gan. Vayitchabeh ha'adam ve'ishto mipnei Adonai Elohim betoch etz hagan. And they hid. Because the fact that they didn't listen was coming back to haunt them. What are they hearing now? The reverberations of not listening, which is only that much louder than what you would have otherwise heard had you paid attention the first time around. And perhaps most notably, Eliyahu Hanavi. I'm sure you all know the story of Eliyahu Hanavi. He's fighting against the Nevi'eh Sheker, the Nevi'eh Baal on Hara Carmel. And he wins. He's able to prove Borei Olam exists. He's able to disprove the Nevi'eh HaBaal. And the chapter closes, Perek Yurchet and Sefer Melachim Aleph. In the next Perek, Eliyahu wants to give up on his Nevu'ah. God, I can't do this. People don't listen. They're not paying attention. They're not with you. Despite the fact that I proved your existence on Har HaKarmel, nobody's listening. And Borei Olam leads Eliyahu Hanavi to Chorev. Where is Chorev? Har Sinai. He takes Eliyahu back to where it all began. And he says the following. Vayomer, God says to Eliyahu, Se ve'amadeta bahar lifnei Adonai. Go stand out on Har Sinai. V'hinei Adonai oved v'ruach gedolah v'chazek mefarek harim u'mishaber sila'im lifnei Adonai. Lo beruach Adonai. And Eliyahu goes out and he stands at the mountain and a fiercely strong wind blows. A wind so strong that it could break through mountains. And the Pasuk says, God was not in the wind. Ve'achar haruach ra'ash. And after the wind, there was thunder. Lo bara'ash Adonai. But God was not in the thunder. Ve'achar hara'ash esh. And after the thunder, there was fire. Lo ba'esh Adonai. But God was not in the fire. Ve'achar ha'esh kol demama daka. And after the fire, there was a very faint, almost inaudible sound. And the Pasuk doesn't say that God wasn't in the sound, which implies that in fact, he was in the sound. And the message to Eliyahu Hanavi as he returns to Har Sinai, and he sees all of the things that would otherwise capture your attention as a human being, wind and thunder and fire, and God is not there except for in the voice. Borei Olam tells Eliyahu Hanavi, you know what the biggest problem is with the Jewish people? They don't listen to what I have to say. They get up in front of me every morning and they pray, and they want me to listen to them, right? But why won't they listen to what I have to say? Because if they would listen to what I have to say, I'm willing to venture that they wouldn't have to be standing up here in front of me praying for all of the things that they need to be praying for. Because we'd be in sync. We'd be on the same page. Because I'm in sound. Sound is divine. If only you would pay attention. And you say it every day. It's the mantra of the Jewish people. I go to any place in the world and take a Jewish child and ask him to tell me the most famous pasuk of the Jewish people. What's he going to tell me? Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. There it is. I didn't have to say anything else. Listen, Yisrael, Hashem is our God, Hashem is one. I just need you to listen. When the shofar blows on Rosh Hashanah, God is asking us to get back to basics. I need you to listen. In fact, the wisest man that ever lived, Shlomo HaMelech, in the beginning of his reign, is asked by God, one wish. I'll give you one wish, whatever you want, it's yours. And at this point in time, he doesn't have all that money and all that fame. He could have said, I want all this money and all this fame. That's not what he says. The one wish Shlomo HaMelech asks of Borei Olam is, V'natata la'avdecha, says Shlomo HaMelech, I want you to give to your servant, Lev shomeya lishpot et amecha, lahavin ben tov lera. Ki mi yuchal lishpot et amecha hakaved hazeh. I want you to grant me one thing, God. Shlomo HaMelech turns to Borei Olam and he says, I want one thing. I want to be able to really listen. How can I otherwise lead the people? They're looking for someone to talk to. I don't want to be able to hear. I can hear, I have ears. I can hear you. I want to be able to listen, and the two are not the same. Which goes back to what we said before. This time of year is about reconnecting with people. It's about listening. It's about getting back to the relationships the way that they were supposed to be, that usually are broken because we're not on the same page, and we're not on the same page because we're talking at each other and not to each other. I need you to be able to listen to what I'm saying. And that's the request of Shlomo HaMelech. I want to be able to listen. Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. That's what Judaism is all about. And so when the shofar blows on Rosh Hashanah, you're going to say, Adonai b'kol shofar, and the shofar will blow. And then in the shofarot section of the Musaf, you're going to read about the shofar. And I want you to pay attention, and hopefully you'll remember me on Rosh Hashanah. I want you to pay attention when you're reading the Mahzor. There's one word that's going to repeat itself over and over and over and over and over again in the Shofarot section of Musaf. And you know what that word is going to be? Kol. Voice. I'm talking to you. Borei Olam says, I'm talking to you. I need you to listen. You think at a rate of 1,000 to 3,000 words a minute. You can't help but be distracted. I need you to push everything aside. Whatever it is that's going through your head, I need you to push it aside. And I need you to hear me. Just like you want your spouse, your friend, your child to hear what you have to say, I want you to hear what I have to say. And if we can internalize that message, if we can work on what it means to truly listen to the people around us, to the world around us, to the Torah and its precepts and its information and its divinity, then not only can we have greater and stronger relationships with the people around us, but a greater and stronger relationship with Borei Olam. Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad is not just a catchphrase. It's who you are. It's the imperative, it's the challenge, it's the task of investing all of who you are in what Borei Olam has to say, and that's not easy. Because if you're not paying attention, you will not hear it, you will not see it. Adonai b'kol shofar, when the shofar blows, this Rosh Hashanah, the question you ask yourself is, am I really listening? Questions? Comments, suggestions? Somebody has to have something to say. You're listening. Thank you for listening. Any questions? Yes, go ahead.
As a comment?
Sure.
In Simla Chadasha, the Selihot of Shechita, just interesting observation that goes with the shiur. It compares a person who is blind. He can do Shechita by feeling. The person who is dumb and he cannot speak, but somebody else can say the bracha and he can do Shechita and he's Yosef. But the one who cannot hear, since he cannot hear the bracha that he's saying himself, he cannot be a shofar.
Right. Great. And that actually, thank you for reminding me, that actually goes with the beracha that we say on shofar is lishmor kol shofar. It's not litkoa. There's no mitzvah to blow it. The mitzvah is to hear it. But if the person who's blowing it can't hear it, it doesn't work. I have the best blessed shofar blower in the world, but he's hard of hearing, can't blow the shofar. Because the mitzvah is to hear it, not to blow it. So that's a great point.
You said that if we would listen to what Borei Olam has to say in the Torah and listen to what he has to say, a lot of the things that we would be praying for, we wouldn't actually be praying for. Was that what you meant to say at some point?
I think that it's that Judaism is a reciprocal relationship. That we have to be able to be invested if we're expecting an investment back, right? I always tell my students, God is not a vending machine. I can't just put in the tefillot and expect the candies to shoot out if I'm not actually doing my piece. So I think if there was reciprocity between the two, things would be a little bit different. Obviously, there's more to that than an elementary understanding of, there's a lot of philosophical points there, but I think that very often we miss the point of what tefillah is and what it's a function of. Yes, go ahead.
Okay, so you were talking about how Torah is how Judaism is a religion of hearing. Is there any other way that we could learn Torah? Isn't that the only way? Isn't it kind of obvious that we have to listen?
I wish it was. I think it's obvious, but I think that sometimes that which is most obvious is that which is most overlooked. So, and actually, in Pirkei Avot, when it talks about all of the 48 things that you have to do to be able to truly acquire Torah, the first one is Talmud. I have to set time to actually learn. And the second one is Shemiat HaOzen. I have to be paying attention. I can have all the books out in front of me, but if I'm not paying attention to what's there, then it's just a decoration. So I'd love to think that it was obvious, but I think the unfortunate reality is that, again, I think we're hearing a lot, but I don't know that we're listening. And again, the two are not the same. Anybody else? No questions? It's very late. Everybody wants to go home. Go ahead.
When you hear the shofar, are you supposed to be asking Hashem for prayers, for things, or are you supposed to just connect?
I think, again, this is my personal opinion, I think that it's really a time to be able to think about my relationship with Borei Olam and how I want to connect. I think, again, going back to what we said, there are very few times, in my own personal opinion, there are very few times during the year where we can feel the manifestation of God as much as we can during the time of the blowing of the shofar. If it's an experience that I elevate, I think it's a tremendous opportunity to capitalize on thinking about my relationship with Borei Olam. And then after that, in the structured tefillah, I can talk about the things that are going on in my life. But at that moment in time, I think the one thing you want to focus on is really hearing through the sound.
But a
obviously hearing doesn't bring you to anything. You have to work it out with something,
Of course.
with something practical like the Torah. I mean,
Right.
It's not like some kind of Nevi'im and understand what's going on through the. You understand my concept?
Right, 100%. And right, listening is the beginning of it.
Yeah.
Right? If my kids told me, Dad, I'm listening to you, but then they're not doing what I told them to do, that doesn't really get me too far. So I would love for them to listen, and then obviously, and that's why, again, the word to observe, which connotes action, is lishmoa, right? It's listening and then acting upon that listening. It's not just hearing it, so to speak, but then putting it into practice. So if I would listen to the shofar and let it resonate inside of me and think about all of the things that I have to do to make this practical and functional, and then I go out and do it, then I've really come a very far way. Great point.
Did the Jews not see the man and the splitting of Yam Suf and Moshe Rabbeinu coming down from Har Sinai? Before we spoke about that, they only heard, they did not see.
So it's interesting if you look at the Pisukim. If you look at the Pisukim by Har Sinai, the senses that it uses to describe how they saw the sound of the shofar and they heard the lightning, which is opposite. It should be they saw the lightning and they heard the sound. It's very interesting to see how jam-packed with senses it is. Certainly they see all of those things. The unfortunate reality about the human mind is that we are inspired in spurts and very quickly we forget. Right? So I always use the example, after September 11th happened, everyone was the proud American, right? We had American flags all over everybody's cars, and then, unfortunately, over time, that kind of wore off. I have it all the time. Rabbi, great speech, best thing ever, I'm going to change it. 2 days later, same Joe, whatever it is, doing the things he's done. So, yes, we may hear in the moment, and we may very well be inspired. To go back to what you said, the hardest part about it is to really bottle it, so to speak, and make that a reality. So it's true that the Jewish people, right, and you ask yourself that question, how could it be? They saw the revelation of Borei Olam, that you don't get any more inspiring than Borei Olam himself saying, don't worship idols, and then 40 days later they're worshiping idols. What does it say about who we are as human beings? That even when I'm listening, I'm not even really listening. So it's very much a challenge. And again, I think in today's world with technology, which has taken over any sense of human contact, it's very difficult to listen. I mean, I teach high school students all day long, and they're bouncing off the walls. To get them to sit and listen, if I can get 5 straight moments of listening and Torah learning, best day I had in the whole week. It's a difficult piece. And again, it seems like it's obvious, but it's not so obvious. Go ahead.
Can you elaborate more on what you said about sound being divine? I don't think I really understood, meaning all sound is divine? What does that mean?
Well, 2 things. I think that Borei Olam relates to us through sound. I think that's what I mean when I said to God that sound is divine. Right? Again, if I look at how the Pisukim describe the experience at Har Sinai, it's all through sound. Today's day and age, with the shofar, is probably the best example of that. That it's less about what you see, right? Because very often what I see is distracting, is pulling me in the wrong direction, and I have to really listen to what's being told to me, listen to my inner voice. That's going to drive me towards divinity. So I think that's, in that sense, sound is divine. And also, again, I think that of the senses that we have, sound requires the most investment, right? I could smell something without paying attention. Right? I'm walking through the streets and I pass by Dunkin' Donuts and I smell it and it is what it is and I keep moving. But if I'm not looking at you and paying attention to what you're saying, I might hear words, but I'm just not with you, right? How many people, right, are at the dinner table and everybody's doing this and talking and, right? The worst thing I think I ever saw was my wife and I went out for dinner and we sitting next to people who for sure were on a date, and she was texting and he was texting. Not much of a date to really happen, but I think that's where we're at, and you can't connect to anything, whether it's God or people, without investing your mental faculties through sound. All right, we'll take one more question. Yes, go ahead.
When we always say the pasuk that says Naaseh v'nishma.
Oh, beautiful.
This
Thank
is-
you.
this
Excellent.
Kind of how you want how you explain referring to what you're saying, that they always said we do what we have to do before we listen. But this is not what it means if you say that we have just to listen. This is my first question. How do you explain it?
Great.
Naaseh v'nishma, not nishma v'naaseh. And the second is, how do you do the difference between Shamot Yishmeru and Ha'azinu? Because the Ha'azinu means in Hebrew more than listening and understanding what you're hearing than Shamot Yishmeru. So which part of this, the Ha'azinu, is stronger than Shamot Yishmeru or not?
Okay, so al rishon. We'll answer the first question first, and it'll be a short piece also that I think will add to what we're saying. Naaseh v'nishma, there's a very interesting Gemara in Masechet in Shabbat, where Ki'ilu, theoretically, after the Jewish people said Naaseh v'nishma, Borei Olam turns to the Malachim, to the angels, and says, who told them Naaseh v'nishma? That's a very profound concept, that they're willing to give of themselves before they even hear what I have to say. And the Gemara relates to Avraham Avinu. Right? Avraham was told in the 10th test to slaughter his son Yitzchak on Har HaMoriah. Only after he has knife to neck and God says, forget it, don't kill him, Rashi says that there was a conversation that took place between God and Avraham. And he brings a midrash recording the conversation, that Avraham turns to God and says, I don't understand. First you told me I was going to have a kid. Then you told me to kill that kid. Now you're telling me don't kill that kid. What's the deal? What's going on? And the conversation continues, but we could ask a question on that Rashi, right? The question is, Avraham, why are you asking now? You should have asked the question before you took your son up to be killed. And the Mefarshim explain that that's the concept of Naaseh v'nishma. And that's where when Borei Olam asked the Malachim, where did the Jewish people get it from? There's a gene on the Jewish genetic code of Naaseh v'nishma, which means what? Which means, even if I heard you, and I listened, and I got everything you said, but I don't understand, there's still a concept to fulfill and to do, because we understand that Borei Olam is on a higher level of intellect. And if he's telling me to do something, just because I don't understand it, doesn't mean I shouldn't do it. So Naaseh v'nishma means, I'm going to do everything that the Torah tells me to do. But of course I'm going to ask my questions, and through listening, I'm going to try to internalize it. But even if I can't, still Naaseh. Still I'm going to do it. Because the listening should not preclude the action. Meaning, just because I don't understand it doesn't mean I shouldn't do it. And so one of the things also, when we hear the Shofar on Rosh Hashanah, we should be asking ourselves is, am I part of Naaseh v'nishma? Am I willing to listen and say, okay, I'm going to take what I like and leave what I don't like? Or I'm going to say, I'm going to listen. And even if I don't understand it or don't necessarily fit with it, I'm still going to follow it because that's what I believe to be the emet. That was a very long-winded answer. Right. I'm a rabbi. I like to talk. That's my thing. And the second question you asked was Ha'azinu versus Shamor Tishminu. And again, I think there are two different connotations. Ha'azinu is used also very infrequently. It's a very unique word that's used at the end of Moshe's life that calls upon, again, internalizing what it is that's being told to them. And if you look at how Ha'azinu continues and the recap of history, Moshe Rabbeinu was saying, there's nothing here I want for action. Shamor Tishmerun is action, right? I want to listen, I want you to hear, and then I want you to act. Ha'azinu is, I'm not asking you to act now. I'm asking you to listen to history. Because in what you hear, there is much to be learned. And sometimes, when people are telling me something, it's not a call to action. I just need you to listen, right? How many times do you go to a friend or a faculty member or a teacher or a spouse and you just want to talk? I just want you to listen. I just need to offload, and I need you to hear what I'm saying. I don't need you to solve the problem. I just need you to listen. So Ha'azinu is Moshe Rabbeinu telling the Jewish people, I have to tell you a story. It's the story of your past. I don't need you to do anything about it. I just need you to hear it so you know your national identity. And that's Ha'azinu. Give me your ears. I don't need action. I don't need hands. I don't need legs. I need ears. And there's a certain ma'ala, there's a certain level to giving over my sense of hearing, even if I'm not doing anything about it. Does that work? Okay. Good. Two great questions. Thank you. I try. All right, we're going to go with one more question, and then Nathan said I have to stop.
Last thing, sometimes the only thing that bothers me, really, Balatokea does not do a good tkiya.
I agree with you, and it's
Is it a bad sign?
I don't know if as a balatokeya, don't write me off so quickly, but it's very nerve-wracking to do that. But you're right, and especially when you're anticipating that nice, clear, loud sound, that wake-up call, especially Be'ezrat Hashem now, you'll be able to. You're right. When it doesn't come out good, it kind of anticlimactic. It kind of kills the. You're right. So I would tell you that we have to make sure we get somebody who's professional in blowing the shofar so that it could have the effect that it's supposed to have. Thank you for having me. I hope it was engaging. I hope it was interesting. Tizku l'shanim rabot ne'imot v'tovot. Famous.